Welcome back to the Monmouth Basketball Hawks Nest podcast. Hope everybody's had a good 4 or 5 months since you've heard from us. We hope you're all doing well. Hope everybody's healthy. It is great to be back talking about Monmouth basketball. It's been a long time, and last year was such a weird season. We're going to get into everything, but quickly, Mark, how are you doing? I know it's been a while since we've done this. Anything new in your life or what's going on?
Doing great. Hoping that COVID continues to minimize, and very excited that we're going to be able to actually physically be in the building and enjoy games in person. That's definitely something that we were all collectively missing last year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a long time, especially the early exit in the MAC tournament. After that, I really didn't have time to think about it much because I got married in July, bought a house in September, and since then it's been craziness with us. So it's kind of, I really haven't had a minute to think about any of this. Now it's kind of a whole new season, and we were at practice last week a little bit, and it's just exciting. We're 2 days away now. And it's just great to have this normalcy back of not just watching the game on ESPN, the home games with an empty Ocean First Bank Center, but we actually get to go there live and watch. And it's just a great feeling that it's coming back.
Yeah, it feels great. Excitement is definitely a lot higher. Excitement and optimism for a full, successful season. I know that the entire team has been vaccinated. So being a high school basketball coach last year and then setting up to do it again this year, and being public school teacher, both of us, the difference between what kind of a shutdown things can happen when you have unvaccinated people who test positive versus what can happen if everyone's vaccinated. So kudos to King Rice, his staff, those kids and their families for, all going all in on hopefully keeping that ball rolling the whole year.
Yeah, it's great to see King Rice taking a stand on that. You saw all last year in the post-game press conferences, please wear a mask. He would even say to us and the media members, other people, please wear a mask, please wear a mask. And, King is at the forefront of that in the MAC, it seems like. And it's good to see that his team is 100% vaccinated. Going over quickly last year, because we want to really focus on this year, it was a weird season. You had virtually no non-conference schedule. You had a MAC season where games were getting canceled, games were getting pushed, games were canceled, and then they were back on because it was a false positive. And it was just a crazy season where we lost home games, and Siena somehow got 6 or 8 in a row. And it was just a really weird season as a whole. But I got to tell you, Monmouth handled it very well from having, I think, 2 or 3 shutdowns at least, and to come back and keep bouncing back the way they did and winning games. And they had a very successful season. It just ended on a bad note. I mean, for everything they went through, they had a very strong regular season, finishing in the top few in the MAC, top 2. And then to have it end against Fairfield, I think that's a game they may have overlooked as well as us, the fans, because you think as the 2 seed and Fairfield coming in, obviously you got to play your game in the MAC tournament. Anybody can be beat on any night. But I think we kind of all overlooked Fairfield. And they came out swinging, and they punched us in the mouth the first few minutes of the game. And, my wife and I went down to AC for the game, and we're watching this, and 15 minutes left and 10 minutes left, and the lead is at 17. And I'm like, I think we're going to lose this game. And we got it to a 10 or 11, and then it went big back to 15. I'm like, I think we're going to lose this game. And sure enough, we lost the game, and we left AC very quietly. And it was a weird ending to a very weird season. And I am looking forward to hopefully having a full season of basketball. It looks like we will. And Monmouth finishing on better terms this year.
Yeah, Monmouth hit their stride. They won 7 out of 8 after getting swept up at Siena. Remember, after that sweep up at Siena, you and I, we had the conversation. That was when I think you put the bug in King Rice's ear to get Sam Chapu off the bench and start Miles Ruth. And the team just really was straight up rolling. I mean, they lost one game, a tough, close game up at Niagara, which obviously is a tough place to play. And then Monmouth got shut down, and then they came off that shutdown, and they lost a close one to Iona, and then got whacked in that second Iona game. And the season kind of didn't feel the same after that. They got the Fairfield games got canceled, and then they came back. They won 2 really tight games against a Rider team that we really thought they should have beaten a little bit more handily last year. And they kind of didn't go into Atlantic City with the momentum that they could have had those shutdowns not occurred. And I think that is something that will always, hopefully always be unique to last year versus any other year in college basketball. And unfortunately, like you said, 2-3 shutdowns. I think it was more like 2.5 shutdowns that they had. Some schools had more. I mean, Iona had the longest shutdown in the NCAA of teams that actually played, and Slick Rick got them to the NCAA tournament. But there's always ifs and buts and twists and turns in a season, but no more than last season. Before we turn the page on last season, quickly shout out to Malik Martin, who blew up in his 4th year at Monmouth and really gave his all. Ended up playing the 5 for a lot of games, and for a stretch, he was one of the 3 or 4 best players in the MAC. I mean, he was hot. Dion Hammond reworked his body. Unfortunately, hit a little bit of a scuff in the middle of the MAC season with his jump shooting. I think that the fact that he worked his body the way he did kind of helped him deal with those rigors of going in and banging. And I know he's moved on to play professionally this year. And unfortunately, Malik Martin took his COVID year at Drexel. Wish him the best, though. 4-year Hawk, Monmouth graduate, just like yourself and I. Donovan Totley, what a bust. The excitement, he made you salivate as you watched his skill level, but unfortunately it just really never clicked at Monmouth, and kind of felt like the writing was on the wall once Dion Hammond had decided he was going to go pro, which we all pretty much knew. Kind of the chances of Donovan Totley returning significantly decreased in my mind. And Gob Gabriel, another guy who you and I were high on from the start, from his initial commitment to Monmouth University with his size, his skill, has moved on as well. So I believe Totley and Gabriel, which is interesting. I think they're a 4th-year junior and a 3rd year, or a 3rd year, 2 3rd-year players. Both went on to junior college, I think, this year. So
wow.
The rules and the eligibility is just all over the place. You have no idea who is what year, really. And you'll have guys like Nelly Jr. Joseph at Iona is being listed as a sophomore, but then you'll have a guy like Clement Vuga at Monmouth could be listed as a freshman. So, it's all over the map. But kudos to, we know who left, but George Pappas with the Twitter and the Instagram, the video of himself. I'm
amazing.
back. I'm back. I mean, amazing.
Wolf of Wall Street video.
What he's done, galvanizing himself in this program from a former walk-on to now being preseason All-MAC, and the return, and then of course the understated return of Marcus McClary might be the most unsung topic that hasn't really been celebrated, but we know when you say the term glue guy, he is the ultimate glue guy in college basketball. So as a podcaster, as a season ticket holder, as an alumni, as a fan, thank you, George, and thank you, Marcus, for coming back and giving us a 5th year.
Yeah, no doubt. Those 2 guys coming back is massive for this team. You go from, if all the seniors leave, Dion, Malik, and Marcus, and George, if they all leave, you go from being probably a bottom of the half of the MAC team without a doubt, especially this year. We'll get into the conference, but it's a deep conference. I mean, you got to think without those guys, Monmouth would have been more towards 7 or 8. And who knows, Shavar probably doesn't come. So this might be one of the bottom 2 or 3 teams in the MAC if George doesn't come back, if Marcus doesn't come back, and then Shavar comes in, which we'll get to in a minute. But, I mean, you go from being a bottom 2 MAC team to a top 2 MAC team possibly just by those few moves. So, again, huge thank you to those guys for coming back. It's a big, big deal. to give Monmouth one more shot with this group.
Yeah, and if you told me 4 or 5 years ago that George Pappas would turn the whole direction of the Monmouth program
No
by
way.
his fourth or fifth year in college basketball, I probably would have questioned it. And we're pretty optimistic fans, and I've always liked George, but credit King Rice too. He continues to do it where he finds these diamond in the rough players and develops them, and by the time they're upperclassmen, they really put it together consistently under King Rice.
So before we get into our schedule, just a note from the Monmouth athletics department that came out that they are having the mask protocols in place. So what I'm understanding is that you will have to wear a mask at the game. I'm sure you'll be able to have your drink at your seat, but there are designated spots, I believe, for eating. We are going to have a mask on for most of the game, though. And if you are vaccinated, what I'm understanding is that you will show your vaccination card at the first game you are at. You will get, I think, either a card or a wristband that you can show when you go into future home games to kind of speed things up. So the first home game might be a little bit delayed getting in there, so get there a little early. But after that, you can show the wristband or the card, whatever they give you. You're good to go. If you're unvaccinated, it's going to need to be a negative test result before the game. So probably within a couple days. So listen, like it or not, wherever you stand politically or on COVID, those are the rules. And let's not be jerks about it. Let's be positive and thankful that we are back in the Ocean First Bank Center. If you don't like it, don't come to the game. I mean, watch it on TV, but whether I was vaccinated or not, I would be happy just to be watching this Monmouth team. But looking at the schedule, King Rice.
Just one thing, real quick,
yeah,
Ryan.
Sorry.
I believe for a few years King Rice has wanted to put the mask on you and I in the Ocean First Bank Center and behind the podcast.
I mean, listen,
no,
we had a good talk the other night. Maybe it's all good.
Yeah, no, very thankful to Monmouth for keeping everyone's safety and also giving the players a chance to have fans there to support them. Because remember, some of these kids have not really had a typical college experience whatsoever. So think about that.
It's a new ball game. So going through the schedule, King Rice and his coaching staff put together a really good schedule. And one game that was left out, I'll get to in a few minutes. Don't you worry about that. You all know what's coming there. I've been waiting for this for months now, but we'll see how that goes. So the home games we have, and I'll let Mark quickly go over some details over some of them. We're going to try to keep these podcasts very informative, but also as short as possible, because although we have a ton of content, we know your time is valuable, and we're going to try to get these to 45, 50 minutes most nights, because we know your time is valuable and not everyone has an hour or so to listen to these. But we appreciate everyone that does listen. So the home games, we have Lehigh, Princeton, Colgate, and Hofstra, all really, really strong perennial contenders in their own conferences. Teams that have made the tournament the last few years. Really, really strong games. No cupcakes in there. Away games at Charlotte, Towson, St. Joe's, and Yale, all bigger conferences. And our big games at St. John's, at Pitt, and at Cincinnati. That's a very strong schedule where if you're 500 at the end of that, you got to feel pretty good, because odds are Cincinnati, Pitt, and St. John's are going to be very hard to beat. And then the rest of them, if you can go 500 or so against them, I mean, that's a really daunting schedule, but I love it because every night in the MAC, and King says it all the time, he said to us last week, every night in the MAC is a battle, whether you're playing the second best team or the 11th best team. It's a battle every single night, home and on the road. So it's getting them ready for that grueling MAC schedule. And I thought they did a hell of a job putting that together.
Yeah, I'll jump into quick tidbits on each of these teams, and then I'll let you kind of go on about the game that's missing. We'll start with the major games, because I know everyone's excited about that. You play at St. John's. That's a great opportunity to play in the city. If you're interested in recruiting city kids, you could tell them, hey, we're playing St. John's. It'll probably be on some regional sports network. At Pitt, obviously a great game against an ACC squad. Monmouth played Pitt really tough. I think it was about 2 years ago, and before ultimately falling. And then at Cincinnati, what a great game. Walker Miller. I mean, what a shame that Walker Miller's former team and his brother's former team and his new coach's former team and his new assistant coach's former team are not giving him an away game in his 5th year of college basketball. But hey, good for Cincinnati. Wes Miller, his older brother, is just taking over the Bearcats, and West and King are very close as UNC alum, and obviously West wants to take care of the people who he should take care of, unlike some other former college basketball guards who are now head coaches. So great by Cincinnati, and what a great moment for the Miller family. You're talking about some home games, and everybody on here wants to know about the home games, right? We always hear from the loyal fans that aren't going to make the trip to most away games, but they want to know about the home games. What are the home highlights? Well, you got Lehigh, and they're usually mid-pack to contender in the Patriot League, so that's a good game. You got Princeton. Princeton's pretty loaded this year. Llewellyn, and then they got a big guy. And Princeton and Yale are really going to be chomping at the bit because the Ivy League shut down all games last year. They didn't get to play at all, those poor kids, or practice, I believe. So, you're really going to run into a possible buzzsaw with those two teams that are trying to make up for lost time, and they're both always Ivy League contenders. Colgate made the tournament last year and in 2019, so they're on a heck of a run for a small Northeast school. And then, of course, Hofstra, who Jerry Beach and I spoke about last year, and Coach Mihalik has officially retired. And what did they do? Oh, they hired former NBA player and their greatest player in Hofstra history, Speedy Claxton, as the head coach. They won the CAA tournament in 2020. They're always a strong CAA program. And they actually, for New Jersey Hoopheads, they actually added Zach Cooks, who was over 20 point per game scorer at NJIT as a 5th-year grad transfer. And Jalen Ray, who is the name of horrors for Monmouth fans, is back for his 5th year as well. And then when you're looking at the away games, like we touched on Yale, they're always a really good Ivy League school. Jones is a great coach. I know that Coach Rice and him are very close. Xander was interested in going there at one time. And then you got 3 games against higher league teams. You got Charlotte, Towson, and St. Joe's. So, yeah, 500 might be tough with this buzzsaw of a non-conference. But King Rice has always said we're not afraid to play anybody anywhere. Unfortunately, some people are, and you're going to get into that.
All right. So, North Carolina. So when the game went onto the schedule a couple of years ago that Monmouth was going to do a home with North Carolina, and we got that great email from Monmouth Athletics Department. I don't think I've ever been so excited to attend a sporting event in my life. I've been to Yankee playoff games. I went to a big Cowboy Giant game late in the season. I've been to tournament games, playoff NBA games. But this was the game, the most anticipated game I would have ever been to. My Monmouth Hawks are who I take the most pride in. All right, I have the towels and flags and stickers at my office at school, at home. I have a basketball thing in the basement now. I'm painting my steps to the basement navy and gray, and Nicole's vinyling letters to say "Let's go Hawks." I mean, I'm Monmouth. This is what I live for. Like, this is my team, and for UNC to do what they did, when we got King Rice a couple years ago, hold on.